Well, let's welcome Jip Vastenburgh from Netherlands, 5,000 meter runner, and she's going to be joining us in Manchester on May the 27th. Hi, Jip. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm currently on the altitude camp in Switzerland, St. Moritz, so training is going well.
And is this part of your plan into running in Tokyo?
Yeah, hopefully. I kind of switched last year from the marathon back to the track, and because of a really good indoor season, and now I kind of hope to race really well in June, and of course starting in May, and then hopefully I can qualify for Olympics on the 5,000 meters.
Now, we're looking forward to welcoming you in Manchester, but that evening you're going to be very busy because you're going to be running the 1,500, and then you're going to put yourself through it and you're going to pace for the 5,000 meters. Is this a major
Yes,
plan as part of your warm-up?
yes, definitely, because for me it's my first race. We're coming back the 24th of May from altitude. I'm gonna go straight back into sea level, and then I think it's kind of good to go back into the racing mode, like blow the cobwebs out of the legs, and then kind of do it again on the 5,000. And I think it's a really good training session for me to do both.
And I've spoken to a few athletes today, and the thing that's on everybody's minds at the moment is the COVID and having to isolate and move around and being in the right place at the right time. How's it been for you?
Yeah. I stayed along in England for kind of like a year. Like last time we went out of the country for training camp was last August. I think the training conditions around Manchester are really good, and so in that way we kept quite safe and just did the training at home instead of going abroad. And so in that way it has been really good. And I think there were like we could still train within a team, and we had a team bubble, so that made it a little bit easier as well. Of course, it's quite difficult to plan things. Like you now, normal days you had a plan A, and you kind of knew that was going to happen, and now you have plan B, C, D, and E, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. So we now as well in June. I hope to race some races in Europe, but like we have a plan that if they don't go ahead, I can race in just in England alone. And I think that's really important, that you make sure you have more plans than only plan A.
Indeed. You mentioned just then that you had a pretty good indoor season, and this is the reason why you're switching races. Tell us about your indoor season and the plans and the build-up to that.
Well, it's actually starting with the Brigham Meet in January. Because there were no other races, my coach Steve Vernon said to me, like, look, there is a 3K indoor, like Vicente is putting a race on for you. Do you want to do it? And I was like, immediately was like, yeah, of course, why not? And that went actually better than I expected. And I ran sub 9 minutes for the first time in a long while. And I kind of felt like at that point I was either going to the marathon for April or I was going back to the track. And I think it made me realize there was more in it on the 5K and a better or a higher chance of qualifying. And suddenly Euro Indoors came on the calendar, and I was like, nowadays you're not sure which event's going to happen. So when you qualify, you kind of want to do it, and that went really well. Barda was disqualified for stepping on the line, but I still, took away a lot of confidence from that race, luckily.
Sure. Let's talk about that disqualification. Do you think it's a rule in track and field that's antiquated? Especially if the athlete puts one toe at the line but gains no advantage. Do you think that rule should still apply?
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult question. I think you need to literally draw a line where people get disqualified or not. But in this case, the first four of my heat were qualified automatically for the next round, and with the four girls, we were quite away from the rest of the group. There was no advantage, and I can see why you disqualify when your whole foot is over the line. You step on the inside of the lane, but I didn't even do that. Like, it's literally my little toe that touched the line, and I have quite big feet, so probably if they were a bit smaller, it never happened. So yes, I think considering the race condition we were racing in, I don't think I should be disqualified. But on the other hand, rules are rules, and I shouldn't have ran there, but I did. So yeah, this were the consequences. And we tried to protest, but they were quite hard. The main thing I didn't like about it was the next day they all put like cones on the line, so you couldn't even step over it. So they kind of made a statement to me for like we didn't think it was fair for her to be disqualified. But yeah, on that moment, I just could accept the way it was, and yeah, it was set to watch the final, but hopefully I will
But
do better this outer season.
sure, but with that in mind, you know, an athlete in that heat of the moment, you didn't actually deliberately step off the track. So I, from
No,
from a
no.
from being a former athlete, but not a distance athlete, but from watching athletics, I always think that rule needs to be changed,
Yeah, I think so
especially
as
if it
well.
can, if they're watching the video and it could be proven that
Yeah.
it's all in the heat of the moment and the athlete didn't mean to do it, then you know, if the official make the call, then they'll do the rerun,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it
I think if you in football they would say they would like look at the circumstances of the rule, and I think in this case they didn't really do that. They just said, okay, she stepped on the line, so she's disqualified. Especially if you look at the way it was, like four-way from the group. There was no way I wasn't going to qualify. I didn't gain advantage. I ran a lot in lane 2 as well, so I probably ran over 3,000 meters. I didn't run under 3,000 meters. So yeah, in that case, I definitely didn't agree with the decision. But yeah, there's on that moment you can't do otherwise than just agree and or accept at least and take the motivation for the outdoor season.
sure, and obviously you've done that because you're now at altitude training and you're looking to be
Yeah,
racing in the UK, and you've got your plans together. So
yeah,
tell me about the
definitely.
fun side. Tell me about your fun side of training.
Um, what do you mean that way?
The fun side. So after training, how do you relax?
So I'm watching a lot of Netflix. To be fair, normally I study part-time psychology. I also work as a coach, so do a little bit of working, but most of the time we go to training. Then I come home, take a nice shower, have some food, and then I would just watch Netflix or a good movie on Amazon Prime usually. So it's a lot of because nowadays you can't really go to a coffee shop because most of them are closed here in St. Moritz, and it's very expensive as well. So normally just go back to the apartment, have some food, and relax with sleeping and napping all day.
And how have you coped with being away from your family and being inside a bubble?
Um, I think at some moments, sometimes it hit me really hard, and when you realize you can't go home, like I made the choice to join Team New Balance Manchester anyway, so I'm living away from because my parents are still in Holland. So I kind of made the choice anyway, but normally I would have a bit more races in Holland and then come home for a weekend or a week. And now it's literally the last year I've only been home for Christmas, and that's basically it. So I've seen my parents for 2 weeks. I think nowadays, though, it makes it a bit easier that you have FaceTime, you can WhatsApp every day, and you can send each other's photos or how it's going. So that makes it a bit easier. But yeah, there are moments that I'm having a bit of trouble and miss home very much. But luckily, I have a really great team behind me, and the girls are my best friends as well, and the boys as well. They are very supportive in that. And so if I'm really missing home, I just go to them, give them a hug, and then it just all goes fine. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being with us, and again, we look forward to welcoming you in Manchester.
Thank you.